Hello fellow map makers, welcome to another live map making session. I'm Ralf Schermann of Fantasy Software, and this is our live video for using our software and making maps. Welcome. Good to see quite a few people on the chat already. Hi everybody, nice to see you. And let's see what we can do mapping wise tonight. Mapaholics, I just see in the chat. That's a good one. Yep, definitely. But I do have to say that the stream will be a little bit shorter today. We won't be able to do quite the full hour because I've got stuff coming up pretty shortly after 7, my 7 here. And so I'll cut it a little bit short, but I hope we'll do everything I'm got on my schedule, because today I want to take a look at interfacing Fractal Terrains and Campaign Cartographer. Specifically, we want to use some stuff that we create in Fractal Terrains, like interesting continents and height fields, and use of some of that stuff in a non-standard style in Campaign Cartographer. Fractal Terrains does export into a few of the basic styles directly, but we want to set it up so we can just copy stuff over to any map, to any style we're using, and I want to demo that tonight. So if you've got any questions during the session, as usual, please do post them in the chat. We've got lots of people there who will be happy to help, especially Sue and Remy if he's around. I haven't seen him yet, but he might show up. He usually does. And of course, I can show stuff on screen if it's possible. All right. Yeah, did you see Azar there? Yeah, looks like she walked through the video behind me. All right, so as you can see, I've got the map from last week's video session up. That's because I'm starting with Fractal Terrains today, and I can't put in the welcome message stuff on Fractal Terrains, so I left up the map from last time. So let's minimize that for a second and go to Fractal Terrains. Here we've got Fractal Terrains and a nice big world map already on screen. As usual, you can rotate the map here with the globe, and you can zoom in and out, and you can change the projection view. So say I wanted a view as if looking on top of the world from space, and that would actually not be this one, but the it's been too long. Orthographic view, that's the one. See here, this will give us a view like we're looking at the world from outer space, and which gives us a good impression relative to our Earth, how stuff would look. But for our export stuff here, we're going to go back to our standard regular equirectangular view. All right, so what do we want to do? We want to find or create an interesting continent and use that shape in a map in the style we used last week, just as an example, the parchment world style we used last week. So I've created a world here. We've already got quite an interesting continent or couple continents on here, which we could use. I could also go fishing for something interesting and just cycle through some random seeds. This is pretty stringy. This is just one big blob of continent. That does look quite interesting, but I'm not so keen on that interior sea there. Similar with this one. This doesn't look too bad. But I'm actually, before I can't decide and go hunting for stuff, I'm just gonna cycle back through the, and there I'm back, and I want to take these two continents here and put them in our map. So how to do that? I'm first going to center these on the map. So I'm going to take a look here what my longitude is here at this point. So this is about a longitude of the 0 is here. That would be good for the center of the map. So I'm going to go in the views and the globe is stuff. I want to put in the view where my I forget where I put in the view of the it's the view properties. Just hiding stuff. I'm forgetting how to put in the. It's been too long since I've used Fractal Terrains, and no matter, we'll just zoom into the area we want to export. That's what we're going to do in the end anyway. And here we are. We've got a nice big view of the two continents we need. And how do we get this into Campaign Cartographer? And simply by exporting by saving as a Campaign Cartographer file here on the file menu. Here we go. And here we do have the some of the standard CC3 styles we can export to, and some legacy settings also from Sue's World Builder Annual, the different contours that you can use to make very beautiful and detailed maps. I'm just going to select one of the base ones, the Gerian style, also created by Sue, and export that as a Campaign Cartographer file. So I'm select that setting and click Export World, and then I'm gonna save this as a CC3 Plus type map. Then I'm gonna go into the folder where I've saved that. This is my vault, and open this in Campaign Cartographer. And here you can see I've got the continents nicely on in the Gerian style. It's because it's not in the showing the whole world. I've got the lowest altitude not showing. I could put in a darker blue background here to fill in those holes, but I'm not bothered about this because I don't want to use this map directly. Instead, I want to just copy some specific things over to our new map from this one. So got this, and what I do want first is the outlines, the coastlines. And for that, I'm just going to go and hide the contours land sheet. I can also hide the contours sea sheet here. And there's my coastline left, and then in this style, some of the interior contours are highlighted by an outline. Just double checking here that which is actually coast. See, this is a lake, this is a lake, and the rest is interior contours. There we go. And now next up is I'm going to measure the map to see how large my new map, the new map I need, is going in the new style needs to be. So I'm going to use info distance, or I can also just go, if I want to measure the whole map, I can go into not drawing properties. I can select resize drawing area, and we see we've got a width of 12,000 by 6,000 height in miles in this map. This is going to be fine. We can use that. But if you wanted to had something exported a larger map and just wanted a section of that, you could go in here and choose info distance, click somewhere here. It doesn't need to be precise, and see this is just about 9,000, a little more than 9,000 miles across. And from here to down here, it's going to be about 5,500 miles. Well, we could just go and use those measurements as well. Let's do that. So then we don't have that much blue ocean space around the map. So I'm going to go into my original map here and just create a new one. Not save the changes. I'm going to go map type, overland maps, and then go down here to our new parchment world style. Here we are. Click next. And then I'm going to put in, what did we have say, 9,000 by, we had about 5,500, right? Let's do 6,000. Bit of space around this. Finish. And go to our video folder. Yeah, so recommends a little bit more, 9,000 by 100 might be. We'll have a look how this goes. We can always enlarge the map later. And new world. Here we are. That's my map. And then I'm going to go back to this one here. And now I want to copy stuff over. And for that, I'm going to edit, copy, or just use Control-C. And then I'm going to select my outline here. I'm just going to grab the ones I know are coastlines. And I'm going to leave out the tiniest islands. I think I don't need them on the map. I'm going to choose some here. And then I'm going to do right click, do it. And now I do need to use a selection. Normally I could just use any point and copy that over. But because I might be copying other stuff over, which I don't want to change the position to in relation to the ones I'm copying now, it's better to have a fixed one. And I could just use the 0.0 here, but that's not going to be the same because we've got a smaller map in the new one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn on the grid and select a point here, which I can use as my reference and always reuse that. I'm going to grab this here. And now I'm going to go over to my other map. Also going to turn on snap here. I think I do need to make it a little larger though. There we go. And then I'm going to do Control V for paste and see where my map fits. See, we are fine. It's all fitting in here. And there's my outline in the new map. Pretty, looking good. So what do we need next is we do need to make this look like the coastline and stuff in this style. And for that we do have the very handy function change like draw tool. So I'm going to use right click the change properties button, choose change like draw tool. Right click, which brings up all the tools of the style, and I'm going to use land default. And then I'm going to select, let's try one first, see whether this works correctly. There we go. And turning sheet effects on, I see it does turn into the nice outlined look of this drawing style. So we can go on, but the problem is here if we, let's just try. Typical what I would expect, I do change properties, select my lakes and this here and go like this. No, so nonsense. Let's go again. Change like draw tool. Select the draw tool first. Land default. Select the entities I want to change. And what has happened? My lakes have vanished. That's because they don't work as a polygon. because you can't have holes in the polygon. I would need to make this a multipoly. So one way to do this is now I use extract properties on my continent, and then I use multipoly. Again, my entities are still there here. You see I've got 3 selected now. Just they're not visible because they're the same background and coloring as the landmass. Press D for do it. And there's my lakes. All nice and good. The only problem is multipolys are not editable directly, so I can now not do stuff like move nodes on this polygon and stuff. So I do have another option, so I can undo this, and I can use change properties, change like draw tool again, and I'm gonna make these lakes. So I'm gonna use the river lake tool. And I've got grabbed one of the lakes. This is a bit of guesswork now, but I do have selected 2 now. Press D for do it, and then they get these colors and shapes, and I refresh. I do have the holes in my landmass, and I can now use node and edit on my coastline again. There we go. So we just need to change the little islands here to our landmass tools. So I'm gonna do the same again, change like draw tool. Basically you can use any of the draw tools here really, because what it just uses is the properties like the fill style and the layer and sheet and so on. So it doesn't matter whether you use smooth or fractal box or circle or the land default, because it will just use the entities we are selecting anyway. But it's easiest to remember just to use the default tool. There we go. And there's my nice little continent outline here in the map. Alright, so that's one of the basic things we need. We could go on here now and work in this style. Just go from there. Often just the general shape of the landmass is the only or the major thing you need, but we can still use some other stuff. For example, we want to show some of the higher contours in our Fractal Terrains map as mountain ranges in this style. So I'm going to go back. Here's my map again, my export, and here's some of the contours. The inner contours come in handy, which we can use as guides for our mountain ranges in the other style. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Control C again, just grab the 2 of the contours here. There we go. Probably not need that. Remember, this is not a altitude contour, or this is actually a lake outline. Okay, and then I'm just gonna do D for do it, and we just need to use the same insertion point, so we do get the same position, and this is supposed to be the point I was using. I'm going to go back to this style, use Control V to insert, and I think I was here with the style. There we are, and there's my contour lines. So very nice and good, but how do we turn this into a mountain range again? Well, the trick here in this style, we do have tools that fill areas with mountains like these here, the hills and the mountain ranges. And we can use these polygons we have here and fill them with these tools. So one simple thing obviously is to just grab this and draw around this. Turn off snap now. This is certainly one possibility, and it's working fine. It's not going to be that precise anyway because our samples are pretty large, but there's also another way to do this, which I want to show you. And this is going to be like, say, because the tool we are using, we can take a look at the tool. Oops, that was a misclick. There we go. The Terrain Area Mountains tool. if this uses a macro command to fill an area we draw with the symbols, and that loads a specific mountain setting or fill setting. And you can see that in the macro here. System fill load, it loads the setting for the fill command, and this is under system fillers annual, and then CA206 mountain simfill. And if we take a look at the command, this is draw symbols in area. We can load this setting here. This is already now pre-filled because we just used the drawing tool and it remembers the last setting, so this is going to be the one in here. But I can show you loading this. Then we do need to go to our program data catalog, which for me is the program data CC3 plus filler system fillers annual, and here are the 206 dots. There are the mountains. There we go. Open this one, and it's the same setting basically, because that was loaded anyway. But I can just do the symbols in area command. Okay, select the area I want to fill, do it, and then we don't have to truck around with actually drawing around this. We just fill this area with mountains. And perhaps I want to fill this larger area around that with hills. So I'm going to go in symbols in area, browse, and go to our system fillers annual again and load. What I've done now. System of fillers, why? No. Now I'm confused. Am I in a different location? Alright. System fillers annual. Now I've confused myself. Why am I in the wrong location somewhere? Data? No. Well, let's have another look. If I load the setting here from the symbols, this area hills, just draw a little bit here, undo that. Yes, thank you, Remy. Oh yes, you freed. Of course, I was doing stupid stuff. I was clicking on the wrong open button. Thank you, Remy. Saved me there. Symbols in area. I can't load the browse here, but I do need to click this load button down here, and then we are directly in the right location, and I don't need to go somewhere else. Okay, thank you very much. That was just user error. Click OK, select the outer area here, do it. That fills it a bit more sparsely with hill symbols, and what we can do actually, yes, I'm going to undo this here for a moment. I'm going to use not the symbols in area, but the symbols in area exclude areas. That's a bit of a double command. That does load the same setting. Click OK. Select the stuff I want to fill, do it, and then selecting entities I want to exclude in the fill. So I don't want this area filled with the hills, do it. And then I'm going to do symbols, sort symbols and map, all of them. And now I can safely delete my 2 polygons here. And I've got the area filled as I wanted them. Alright, so this is on this continent here. Let's go to the other continent. And do the same here. Basically, this way I'm going to go the other way around. I'm going to draw symbols in area exclude areas with the hills. I want to fill this area, do it, but I do not want to fill this interior line. Altitudes, do it, and there's my hills. And then I do want to do symbols in area, load the other setting, mountains, okay, and select the inner, oops, but I do not want to fill this one, just one selected, do it, and there's my mountains. Erase my polygons here. This way I'm just gonna, I do have a few symbols selected that now I can just go combine not entity type symbol reference, and now I've just the polygon selected, do it, and there we are. Now I can go in and perhaps add a few big large peaks if I want to, or individual smaller mountains. Basically fill out the mountain ranges. That was a misclick down there with a little bit of smaller stuff. Erase this misplaced mountain here. And symbols, sort symbols and map. By entity type. No, I could have just selected everything, but there we are. And this is how my mountains and hills look after using information from Fractal Terrains in this drawing style. I would probably go in now and add a few more individual hill symbols on the edges of the continents to make this a bit more lively, but I do want to create something else. For example, I can take rivers from Fractal Terrains, but we didn't export any rivers in our Fractal Terrains, so what we need to do, we need to first generate some in our map here. And so we're going to go in switch to Fractal Terrains again, go to rivers, find rivers, and I want to have fine rivers, okay. And then it should go through the calculation process here. And I'm going to make the color darker so I can better see them better. Oh, this is actually, already very detailed. We can make this a bit smaller so we don't get quite that much stuff. This looks fine. Okay. And there's my rivers on the Fractal Terrains map. And now we need to export this again. Now I can't remember right now. Did Fractal Terrains export rivers in the current version? I'm unsure suddenly. Sorry. Let's try. So we are just gonna go use the export again. Same stuff. Export world, and that was my world I was using. You see how long I haven't been using Fractal Terrains. It's a shame, really. Such a wonderful program. And let's go to our map here and reload that, because we re-exported this. Ah, yes, it does, rivers. I remembered correctly. Just doubts came creeping in there suddenly. All good. This is the rivers here. It does have some problems in the generation, which Joe is aware of, but it's just something. For example, the rivers here will run to the lowest points and just to mostly to these interior seas or lakes, and it looks a bit weird. We would, for example, expect probably an outflow from this river to the coast or something. But that's always something you can add in campaign. Cartographer. So the only problem is what I've done now. I've messed up my so no zoom prior. No, that's haven't messed up. I want to set the same size again. And now, because if I want to go back later at some point, I get to the same exact export again. But for now, we just want to go to our map here. No. To my world. And I'm going to turn on the grid again so we can use the reference again, and now I just want to copy the rivers over, and for that I'm just going to go Control C again by color, and I'm going to use F2 for color reference of all the rivers, do it, and I'm going to use this grid point again as the reference point, go to my other map, Control V for paste, and turn on the grid. And this is the grid point I was using, and there are my rivers on the map. Thing is, of course, they do look strange here at this point, and they do run to some low points on the Fractal Terrains map, which is not always the coast. Here on our map, I did put a mountain there, where it shouldn't go. Let's just remove that. Okay. I'm now just wanted the river to be like in this style again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in change like draw tool command again, right click, and go to the default river by color. I'm going to use this color for the rivers again to select them, do it. It double checks with me because it's, that's a lot of entities that we really want to change them all to this drawing style. Good point, but we're pretty sure we're fine, so yes. And this also creates this. Oh no, there's something has not. Yes, there's. I think there's something wrong with the sheet effects here. Let's have a look. Info list. Oh, they ended up on the terrain sheet, not on the land sheet. Not quite sure why that happened. I think it's because it was the current sheet here. Let's try that again. Change like draw tool by draw tool, and that's what I was fearing, that someone I was expecting has the wrong time. Just a second, please. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Sorry for that. Before they start ringing the bell again, someone got the wrong time. All right. So I wanted to change the rivers again. Change like draw tool by river default, and layer water rivers. There we go. Do it. And now, yeah, and refresh, and there we are. And that does look much better. You'll see that the Fractal Terrains rivers are also a bit regular, because they are all little straight lines. What you can do is you can do straight or smooth. Setting prior to make these all smooth lines. It's going to be a bit slower in redraws because there's quite a few nodes on there, but in general it does look a little bit better. And now I would go in and do some little adjustments, like if you've got this double line here, which does look very much a good space for a river, for a lake. So in terms of snap, just draw a lake over this in this style. There, does look much better. Then I've got some stuff here, would put in the lake here, and choose a larger river to run from there to the coast. There. Then I could also remove these very tiny rivers like this here. Or what I could actually do is I could extend this. Doesn't quite match the Fractal Terrains world then, but if I'm not too bothered about that, I can go in and choose a river at the current width, connect it to this line here, and connect this to the lake. And this way build larger rivers. Yeah, I'm going to remove these little bitty rivers. At some points you might want to extend the lines a bit. You can move the nodes so they're actually, oops. No, I think I do need to zoom in closer to actually hit that node. There we are. There we go. Same here. And this way we are basically cleaning up the map. And this is a river too short to be on our map, so we're just going to remove that. And if you go around the map like this, you can quite easily clean it up. Here's some little stubby rivers which I don't want. And you can also see that some of the hills are a bit too much on top of our rivers, so we can go in and move these around. Out of the way a little bit. There's one more still blocking the river. This to here. And this way show the river flow, not running straight through the hills. And that's looking quite nice. And now I have all the stuff I want from my Fractal Terrains map and got that all imported in the map here. I would now continue adding the stuff that's not in Fractal Terrains, like the navigation lines and the structures and forests and stuff like that. And you could also, you've got more options in Fractal Terrains. You've got the climate stuff, which you could export and then use some of the climate areas to turn into forests or deserts and stuff like that, and convert the whole map into this very different style. And then we could go in and go the other way around. That's something I sometimes like to do if I've got a nice world map that I want, that I've drawn in a flat version, basically already in a rectangular version or something similar, and get that into Fractal Terrains. And that's also something I want to show you quickly. For that, I'm gonna go to last week's map, because that is better suited for that. So let's go here. That's the world I created last week. And because it does have the default size for a rectangular map, and that's a 2:1 ratio of width to height. What we do need is an export, a bitmap, because we can't import an FCW file directly, but we can put in a bitmap into Fractal Terrains. Just to clarify, you don't get any of the coastlines as entities or data into Fractal Terrains. You just get an overlay image. But the advantage is that Fractal Terrains can then put that on a globe or in different projections, and you can use that. So let's see how this goes. So I'm going to do save as, and I'm going to save this as a JPEG file, and I'm going to go into this weeks folder, save this from the bottom left corner all the way to the top right, to the export. And yes, as you say, we'll see, you'll see the distortion, which is actually not correctly reflected in that map, and how that will look in the in Fractal Terrains when we actually put it on a globe. And here's the map, all good. Don't need to change anything for that in Photoshop. So I'm gonna go into Fractal Terrains. And there I'm going to go into the image overlays. I could use a blank map for that, but I can just also put the image just for demonstration purposes over any of the backgrounds here. So of any worlds that I've created. And I'm going to overlay, add an overlay. So image import, it's going to be visible, and I want to have it 100% opacity. It will cover the whole map. You can also just put it in sections. If you've just drawn a section of the world, you can also put that in like that. Go and edit and import color image. Here we go, and that's my world. Yeah, we actually no, we don't want the transparent, anything transparency in that. We just want to have it all visible, and to see the width and height will get adjusted to this automatically. Okay, and there's my yes, and that's something I always forget, that on importing the image it will be flipped. And we do need to change this in the overlay window, edit, and we can do this by swapping these values around here. So let's see if we put the minus 90 on top, if I remember correctly. Let's see, and there we are. And this way we have the whole thing now up here. What's still visible is the rivers, so we can actually hide the rivers. Clear river overlay, there we are. And you can already see, if I rotate the world, we can actually rotate our map here on the world. There we go. And let's see how this looks if we put it on a orthographic view. There we go. Okay, and zoom out. And distortion is actually because we left the Arctic areas free. It's not that bad at all. See, you do see it a bit here on these islands, which I've drawn as fairly circular blobs. They do get to be elongated along the north-south axis because of the distortion. It doesn't looks a bit weird, but in general, as you can see, if we stay away from the Arctic areas, it's not that bad at all. And there's our world on an actual globe. I always like that. If I created my map, my own world, seeing it projected on a globe, that's just really nice. And you can actually produce animated images from this by exporting it as a spin view image sequence and then put them together in a GIF generator or something, because we of license reasons, Fractal Terrains can't GIFs directly, or GIFs, or however you pronounce that file type. You can, of course, have polar regions. You have just to be careful drawing them. If you'll get straight or unnatural borders or very strangely shaped stuff. Basically, if you take a look at a rectangular map or a Mercator style map in the of Earth that does show polar regions, you'll see that there are strips along along the top or bottom edge of the map, and you need to draw your polar regions like that. Yes, Remy posts a link to an example of an animated world from the community atlas. The world map there is nicely animated and created, and you can take a look there. All right, and we've got 45 minutes down, and this is what I wanted to do today. So I hope you enjoyed your session tonight, and I'll get off and prepare for some guests that will be coming in later. And we'll see each other again next week for the next live map making session. Thank you for sticking around, for your questions and following along. And thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.